Hey guys, welcome back to Blue Dog Ventures. Today we're back in the kitchen experimenting. Yesterday I done my first ever sourdough bread, but I cheated just a little bit and I was looking up beginner's guides to sourdough bread, and I stumbled across Miss Pam's channel, Cooking at Pam's Place. And I watched her video on her 2-ingredient sourdough bread with no starter needed. She uses kefir milk in lieu of a starter. And so I said, hey, I'm a beginner. This is a great beginner method. Let me give it a try. And so I grabbed all the ingredients, made a trip to Walmart, and threw it all together yesterday, followed her video, and it turned out awesome. My first ever sourdough bread. I was very proud. In fact, this is what's left of it. And so we decided, I didn't get any footage. I didn't do any filming yesterday. Like I said, I was experimenting, trying my hand at it. And so today we're going to do a full video on it, because I've already had a request to make another loaf. So what you're going to need, again, is the kefir milk. And I picked this up at Walmart. I'm sure they have it at Kroger and some of your higher-end grocery stores. Our little small-town grocery store didn't have it. But this is 1%, and stick with the plain, because you don't want any added flavor to your sourdough. And we're going to use 4 cups of self-rising flour. Now, me personally, I'm using organic flour, and as you can see, this is all-purpose. But I'm going to show you guys a little trick on substituting out. If all you have is all-purpose, you can turn it into self-rising real quick and easy with 2 added ingredients. So that's what we're going to do today, because I do not have any organic self-rising flour. But if you're using self-rising flour, and it doesn't have to be organic, this is just your preference, make sure that the protein content on that flour is 3 grams or above. Some of your self-rising brands only have 2 grams. You're going to need at least 3 grams of protein. So we're going to need 4 cups of the flour. And again, I only have the all-purpose on hand, so we're going to convert this over to self-rising right quick. We're going to go ahead and add our 4 cups into a bowl. And to do this, you're going to use I'm also out of baking powder. Preferably you want to use baking powder, but baking soda is completely fine on substituting in this case. You have to have an acidic ingredient for baking soda to react. But we have that right here, so we're going to use baking soda because I have that on hand. I used all my baking powder yesterday making that loaf. And if you're doing baking soda, and this ratio is different if you're using baking powder. Baking soda is a little more potent, so you use a little less. It's a 1/4 teaspoon per cup of flour. We're using 4 cups of flour, so that's going to be 1 full teaspoon of baking soda. And y'all don't laugh, but I keep my baking soda in this French onion container. But it's baking soda. So we're going to use 1 teaspoon. I'm just going to add that in to our 4 cups of flour. Okay, and then we're also, self-rising flour has salt. All-purpose flour does not. So you're also going to put a 1/4 teaspoon. This is in either ratio, using baking powder or baking soda. You'll see some variances, but I like to use a 1/4 teaspoon per cup. So again, we're going to use a full teaspoon, seeing how we have 4 cups. I'm going to add that in. And we're just going to give it a quick whisk. We're not even going to sift this. We're just going to use a whisk. Give it a good mix. And problem solved. There's our self-rising flour. You are going to need a Dutch oven. I forgot to pull mine down, but you'll see it later in this video. So be sure that you have that on hand for this process before you ever get started. But we're going to take, and you're also going to need 4 to 6 hours of refrigeration time for your dough before you bake your bread. So keep those two things in mind. That's why we're going to go ahead and prepare our dough now. We're going to stick it in the refrigerator. Now, yesterday, I was bumping 8 hours. You don't want to exceed 12 hours. But in my experience yesterday, I'm not even going to bump 8 hours because the longer you leave it in the fridge, the wetter the dough gets. And it was almost too wet to work with yesterday, in my opinion. It was roughly 7.5 or 8 hours that it was refrigerated. So today, we're going to try it around 5.5 or 6 hours. Like I say, anywhere between 4 and 6 is ideal. But we're going to back off and definitely come closer to those numbers today on the refrigeration to see if my dough's a little less wet and a little easier to work with. But we're going to go ahead and put our 4 cups of homemade self-rising flour in our bigger bowl here. And we're going to use 2 cups of the kefir. And just turns out that if you guys pick up, this is a 32 ounce, a 1 quart size. If you guys pick this up, that is roughly, there's just a tad left. So roughly there's 4 cups in here because I used 2 cups out of it yesterday for my recipe and 2 cups today, and I've got just a swallow left in there. Not that this, I don't know if you guys have ever tasted this stuff. To me, it tastes like buttermilk. Not very pleasant. Okay, and then all we're going to do is we're going to get a wooden spoon and we're going to mix this up. And we just want to mix it until it starts pulling away from the side of the bowl. Just keep working it to get it all mixed. Sometimes you just kind of got to get your hands in it to get it mixed pretty good, but that's about like we want it. Now the next step is we're going to put plastic wrap over the top of the bowl and make sure that it's secured very tightly over the bowl. And this is one of my favorite things to work with. Just kidding. I hate plastic wrap. But I'm going to try to do this gracefully. But see, it never works. I have never got along with this stuff. Okay, like I say, pull it really tight. Let's have one more go. You can't let no air in it. Let me get another brand. Let me see if we got another brand. I'm going to use this press and seal because I don't get along with the clear plastic. You just want to keep the seal on it tight. I don't really get along with this either. I like tin foil, but we can't do that in this case because you got to have a tight seal. This stuff works great. That's so much easier than the plastic wrap. Okay, see how tight I got it? All right, now we're gonna stick it in the fridge. Again, 4 to 6 hours is your ideal window. You can go a little bit longer. Do not exceed 12. In my experience yesterday, when I was bumping 7.5 or 8 hours, it was getting a little too wet for my experience level to work with the dough. So we're going to try to shoot for around 5 to 6 hours today and see what the difference is. But we're going to pop this in the fridge and then we'll be right back with you to do the rest of the process. All right, guys, it's been 5.5 hours since we put the dough in the refrigerator. And this is just a little tip I'm gonna pass along. I like to just take a marker and just write on my saran wrap or my plastic wrap the time that I put it in the refrigerator, just in case I get too tangled up in something else and I forget what time I put it in there. So we're gonna go ahead and open it up. All right. Now, you want to start with wet hands. We're going to work the dough a little bit to start with. And what we're going to do is you're going to work all the way around the dough and you're going to pull from the bottom and pull to the center. All the way around. And this dough is not near as wet as yesterday. So I'm thinking that has to do with the timing that you leave it in the refrigerator for sure. Work all the way around. All right. And then I'm going to rinse my hands off right quick and dry them. Okay. You're going to have some flour on hand here. We're going to take, if you've got a baking mat, or if you just want to put down wax paper or some type of paper to work with, but I found that the paper is going to twist on you when you're kneading your ball, so I recommend something solid. I like to use this cutting board here. And just sprinkle the flour and spread it around on your working surface. And you want to coat your hands pretty good. Okay, we're going to take our dough out. Just kind of work it around out of your bowl. Like I say, I'm still a rookie, so we're going to place it on our cutting board. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're just going to press down on the center and we're going to just work it around. And we're trying to make a nice, firm ball. Just bring it around to you. You want it nice and smooth. About like that. Got one little sticky side over here. All right. I failed to mention, and this is very important, I should have mentioned it before now, but you want to preheat your oven to 450 degrees. And you want to go ahead and place your Dutch oven in your oven so that it can preheat with the oven. Again, 450. So we've already done that step, and our oven is already preheated all the way to 450. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull our Dutch oven out. And be very careful because it's going to be very hot. And just make sure you've got a safe surface to go to with it. Okay. Now we're going to take some parchment paper. We're going to take our ball, just sit over on the parchment paper. And we're going to take it over to the Dutch oven. Be careful not to touch the sides of your pot. We'll kind of fold it over, keep it open around the bread. Okay. We're going to put our lid back on. And we're going back in the oven for 30 minutes with the lid on. So you can set your timer for 30, and then we're going to take the lid off, and then we're going to continue to cook for we're going to start checking it around 10 minutes with the lid off. Yesterday, I went a full, right at 15, 20 minutes, and it was starting to get a little dark on the top. So I'm going to start checking it around 10 minutes after we take the top. But we'll show you that step, and we'll come back in at 30 minutes and remove the lid. All right, guys, it's been 30 minutes. So we're going to take a peek. We're going to go ahead and pull it completely out and pull the lid off and see what we're looking like so we can judge about how long we're going to leave it in there without the lid on. Ooh, that's hot. Looking good. Mm-hmm. Ain't that pretty? Okay. Let's leave it in there for another 10 minutes uncovered without the lid. And we'll look to see what it looks like. All right, guys, it's only been 5 minutes, but I think we need to go ahead and take it out. You're taking the lid off just to make your crust a little crunchy on the outside. So that's the only purpose in taking your lid off. So you just really, once you get to that point after the initial 30 minutes, you really want to stay with it and keep an eye on it. But hear that? That's what you want it to sound like. You want it to sound hollow on the inside. That's when you know it's ready. Let's see. I forget this parchment paper. It ain't that pretty?
Smells good.
It does smell good. And it's quick and easy. Like I said, it's just the 2 ingredients. If you've got the self-rising flour, just that and the kefir milk. But like I said, I was looking into making the sourdough and was educating myself on the starter and all that good stuff. And I stumbled upon Miss Pam's video, again, cooking at Pam's place. And I appreciate her passing her knowledge on and kind because this is super easy and perfect for a beginner such as myself. So y'all definitely give it a try, and it is some delicious bread.
She made one last night. We had a low country boil. It's all gone today. They had enough to make me a tomato sandwich with earlier, and that's it.
Yep, it's gone. But and it's a healthy alternative to store-bought bread. As you guys know, they're putting all kinds of stuff in our store-bought bread now. You can buy a loaf of bread and leave it for 2 or 3 months, and the stuff don't mold anymore. I mean, if that don't tell you they put too many preservatives in it, I don't know what will. But this is a healthy alternative. It's also got the probiotics in it from the Kefir Milk, and it's good for your gut. So all around, much better choice and a lot cheaper. As always, guys, we appreciate y'all hanging out in the kitchen with us, and stay tuned. We'll be right back in here cooking us up something good to eat, and we'll pass it along and be sure and share it with you guys. Until next time, take care.